Hello everyone, my name is Clayton Osler with Content Watch, the makers of Nanny. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for attending, thank you for your time and interest. We appreciate your interest and we're excited to talk to you today about protecting your family from bad apps. The main focus of today's demonstration and conversation will obviously be the concept of protecting your family from bad mobile apps. There's a lot of mobile apps obviously in the industry, and we want to talk a little bit about why they could be dangerous, and then also provide some solutions and ideas on how you can keep your family safe. If you've never attended one of our webinars before, I want to give you an idea of the format, the way that we answer questions. While I'm presenting, we will have the demonstration in listen-only mode. That means you can listen to me, but unfortunately you can't actually speak up and ask any questions. So the way that you can ask questions is using the question box in GoToMeeting. And you can type a question in there during the demonstration. You can wait till the end of the demonstration. We will try to always answer those as we go along. We're going to actually have some of our support engineers log in towards the end of the demonstration and the conversation and have them answer some questions as well. So if you see questions or need to have things answered, please pop that into the box and we'll try to answer them as we become available. To kind of introduce you to NetNanny, NetNanny is a product created by a company named Content Watch. We're in Salt Lake City, Utah. NetNanny has been protecting families for over 12 years now. We are sold in over 150 countries. We've have over 1 million families that we help protect on the internet and keep their families safe online. I just want to talk a little bit about some mobile trends, some trends we're seeing in the industry to kind of put today's conversation into context. In 2008, the average number of mobile apps, not average, the total number of mobile apps installed to mobile devices was less than 2 million. And today, the current industry estimates more than 400 million are installed, and this graph only shows up to 2011, and in 2011 we almost reached 200 million mobile apps are installed on mobile devices in the world. The graph below that kind of talks a little bit about the total number of apps that have been installed via iTunes. Again, you can see that number is growing very quickly. The number of mobile apps that are becoming available, how much we use them, is becoming a really important part of our life, and it's something that we use every day. The average number of mobile apps installed per device is growing as well. In 2008, it was estimated that most users had between 10 and 15 apps. And a lot of people had even less than that. They would have a weather app and maybe their mail app. But now that's really grown. The average iTunes App Store customer uses more than 100 apps now on their mobile devices. And that's evident if you take a look at anyone's iPhone or Android device or pick up a tablet. There's just hundreds of these apps that are installed. With that, mobile device internet usage is also on the rise. Smartphones and tablets now account for more than 20% of all internet traffic. So it used to be just confined to our desktop computers and our browsers, but now it's obviously growing, and that number is going to increase as the popularity of smartphones and tablets increases. What we're going to talk today about a little bit is malicious or bad apps. So if you take a look at this graph with me, you'll see that the number of detected or identified apps that were malicious or what we call malware in Q4 of 2011 is very, very low. It was less than 1,000. But now by 2012, December, the total number of malicious apps for mobile devices that have been detected is close to 350,000. So that's a lot of mobile apps that have a malicious or what we consider malware embedded in them. So a real common question is, well, what is malware? What does that do? Why do I care? Why does it matter to my family? So I have a list here of some things that these malicious or malware apps typically do on our mobile devices. A real common one is they will capture SMS or our MMS messages. Copy these off to a remote server where this can be used for marketing data or just for harvesting of personal information. Also, a lot of these apps do what's called text message relaying, which means a text message can actually be relayed from a remote server to your device and then sent out to your friends or to people that you know. Another real common one, data usage. Using your internet connection, whether it be Wi-Fi, 3G, 4G, they can use these without your knowledge. Emails. A malicious app could also potentially use your email client to send out email. The most popular or most common malware function is contact list harvesting, and what that means is when you install an app, it gets access to your contact list. It makes a copy of it for maybe personal use or for you to be able to contact your friends via the app, but it also sends that contact list off to the manufacturer or the developer, which they then now have a copy of your entire contact list. They can use it for marketing purposes or any other means. Things like location tracking, personal data mining. Once you install an app on your phone that has malware embedded in it, it can actually obtain this information and send it off to a company or a person who created the app. Keystroke logging. Creating copies of your pictures and your documents. In addition to that, there are some malware apps that support download and installation of other apps without your consent. So these are all some of the functions or things that malware does on your mobile device. This could be a tablet or a smartphone. And when you think about this, most of the time this isn't what we intended when we installed the app. So I want to talk a little bit about how we can protect ourselves from these issues. And I also want to point out that not all apps are necessarily malware. Sometimes they just contain inappropriate content. So I also want to talk about that as well. There are hundreds of these kinds of apps that have things like live webcams or picture browsers or video feeds where you can't necessarily control the content that arrives via this app, but you could be exposed to inappropriate content very easily, or your family could get access to or be exposed to this content as well. And these are just some of the more mild icons. I kind of wanted to give you a sample, but there's literally hundreds of these kinds of apps, and the list grows every day. And the major markets like Google Play and Amazon are trying hard to keep these out of the marketplace, but because it grows so quickly, it's very hard to keep them out, and the names change frequently. So let's talk about some of the things we can do to protect ourselves from these malware or inappropriate apps. So what I would suggest doing before you install any kind of an app is create kind of a mental checklist of things that you want to look at or check before you go ahead and install an application. And the first one's really simple. Is this a known app? It is very common for new apps to be released in a marketplace that you've maybe never heard of, that claim to do amazing things. A real common one that I got caught on was watch live TV on your mobile device, and I was so excited to install it and see what it did. But then when I looked at the review, I noticed that very few people had actually reviewed the app, and it wasn't a well-known application in the marketplace. And that is a good indicator that you should maybe try to steer clear of the app. It's always a good idea not to be the guinea pig to try out the new app. It's always a good idea to look at someone else's review and see what they say. You'll often see reviews of, I installed this app and it's stealing my data, or I installed this app and it made my phone slow. Those type of things are good to look at, and it will give you an idea if it's a reputable app or if it's a known app, or if you're just installing something to kind of try it out. The next step obviously is taking a look at what that app will do on your mobile device when it gets installed. If you look here on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, what you'll see here is a common screen that you see when you install an app on any Android device. Android requires that applications identify what they're going to access on your phone. So you'll notice here I'm installing Facebook, and it tells me exactly what the Facebook app will have access to on my mobile device. Now, I know we're all used to installing software, and most people just skip over this screen. I frequently do it as well, but if you look at this screen, you can get information about what this application will have access to on your mobile device. You'll notice that Facebook has access to my GPS to edit and send SMS and MMS messages. It could do things like look at my phone calls. It can prevent my phone from going to sleep. I mean, these are, now in the case of Facebook, I know it's a reputable app and I trust it and I want that kind of integration. But if I installed an app that I didn't know very much about and I saw an indicator that said it could send and receive MMS and SMS messages, it would make me a little bit leery. You'll also notice that it will tell you when an application will use services that could potentially cost you money. This is a really good screen to read. Most people just kind of browse through it really quickly, but I invite you to always take a look at that screen when you install an app, because it will give you an idea of what it's going to access. Once you go ahead and look at this and you decide it's something you want to install, go ahead, install it. Another thing you can do to help ensure that you're getting good apps and that you're not installing these random malicious malware apps on the internet is you can also limit where your device gets mobile applications. Right here on the right hand side, this is a Kindle Fire. You'll notice down here at the bottom an option to allow installations of applications, and it's on or off. This doesn't mean applications from Amazon Marketplace. This means applications from other locations. On a Google Android device that's not a Kindle, it's an option that says allow installation of third-party apps. Turning this feature off and on allows you to go get apps from other sources, download them from websites, go get them from unknown or lesser known app marketplaces. This feature on all devices is turned off by default. So when I go buy a new Google Nexus phone, it's set to off, which means I can only install applications from the Google Marketplace. When I buy a Kindle, this is set to off, which means I can only install applications from the Amazon Marketplace. Now if you turn this feature on, it now opens up your device to get apps from anywhere. You could download them from a website, and this is a real common way to get malware or malicious apps on your device, because those apps haven't been checked by anyone. There's no reputation service behind them. No one's monitoring those apps. They just get installed on your device when you tap on them. So this is a good way to keep your device safe. Now, I recognize not all devices have the option for things like the Google Play Marketplace or the Amazon Marketplace, and in that case you just need to be careful and try to pick a well-known or a reputable app source. Apps are not all the same, even though they may have the same name. It really comes down to where you get the application from. The last thing I want to point out, which is the best way to help you manage the apps on your mobile device, is to use an app manager. App managers, when mobile device was in its infancy, were really restricted to things like MDMs or businesses. It was this enterprise solution that you had to get hundreds of devices enrolled in, and it costed a lot of money. Today, app management is very easy to use, and it's actually included in all versions of NetNanny for Android. And so what you're seeing here is a screenshot of the application manager for NetNanny for Android. So along with the content filtering that most people are familiar with and the blocking of inappropriate websites or content, you'll notice that there's a tab here called Apps. This is my family's tablet. I've clicked on the family, and you'll see here this is a list of all the apps that are installed on the mobile device. This list will update in real time. You can access this web portal from anywhere in the world. So if a new app gets installed, it would show up in my list here. Now, when I look at my list, green apps are allowed, red apps are blocked. So you'll see here that I've blocked Angry Birds, which means if someone opens my tablet and taps on Angry Birds, it won't actually launch. So this is a great way to manage the apps that are on your device and see which apps are installed. Along with that, you'll notice there's an option here to control how new apps are installed. New apps, in this case, are always going to be allowed. If you run a tablet with your kids and you want to make sure that you approve every app and get information about the app before they just run it, you could obviously change this feature to blocked, and it means that anytime somebody installs a new app, that app's actually not going to be able to run until you go in and approve it and change it to green in this field. So app management is a very powerful tool. It's a great way to know what's going on, but it's also a great way to manage and keep those apps off of your device and monitor or review apps before you approve them. I want to jump to the next slide and just kind of point out the main purposes of using an app manager. So as I just mentioned, you can choose to approve an app before it's run. So now you don't have to go ask your kids to get their tablet back and see, what are the 50 apps you guys installed in the last week. I can actually look at the apps and choose to allow or deny them directly from a web browser without having to get the tablet back. And I actually had a personal experience with this. I used it with my son last week. He has some game that he wanted to play called Clash of the Clans, and I didn't know anything about it. So he went and installed it, and it wouldn't run because I'd set my app manager to block. So then he sent me an email and said, "Hey Dad, I want to play Clash of the Clans." I logged into the browser. You'll notice on the little corner of all apps, there's a little eye. You can click on that eye. You can see the review of the app. You can also get information about how to what the app will do that we spoke about earlier, what it has access to, and then if you want to allow it, you change it to green and it will run. So it's very easy to use and it's a great feature. The next thing, obviously, control where those apps are installed from. Now I realize that's not an option for everyone depending on your kind of device, but it is a great way to make sure that your apps are semi-reputable. Now Google and Amazon have hundreds of thousands of apps to review, so they're not going to catch every little thing, but they are doing a good job of checking those apps. I've actually installed an app before, came back the next day and found it gone on my tablet. And when I did some research, I found out that Google found it to be malicious and they just removed it from everyone's tablet. So they are doing some work to protect us there. And then the last thing is, I also wanted to point out to make sure that you get info about that app. Read the review, make sure it's reputable. Don't be the guinea pig for an app developer that wants to throw something out there and maybe steal your data by tempting you with your curiosity to find out what it might or might not do. So the next question what a lot of people are going to ask is, so what about iOS? What about my iPad? What iPod? My iPhone? What can you do for that on application management? Unfortunately, Apple doesn't allow application management to really occur on an iOS device. They have some rules, and these rules are that third-party apps, which would be anything that's not created by Apple, can't affect other apps. Third-party apps can't monitor data sent and received from other apps, and they can't work on an OS level. What that means is that as much as I would like to, we can't create a consumer product for you to be able to do app management on your iOS devices. But there is some good news. There's some ways you can monitor and track these things in your iTunes or on your iOS devices. So on any on any iOS device, if you go to Settings and go to General, there's an option here called Restrictions. Restrictions are where you can put controls on what gets installed on the device, or can people install or remove software. So if you click on Restrictions, you'll be prompted to create a restrictions passcode. This is a passcode that's unique to your mobile device, to your iPad or your iPhone, and this makes it so that people can't go in and change the settings without the restrictions passcode. Once you set up a passcode, you'll get a screen that looks just like this, and you'll notice you have options here to turn off things like the camera or FaceTime. You could turn off iTunes altogether. You can actually turn off installing apps. So if you turn off installing apps, people could still actually look at the apps that are available, but they can't actually install them. If you get an app installed and you're concerned about your kids removing it, you could turn that feature off as well. Now this is obviously not as robust as the app management that I just showed you, but it also gives you some options on how you can control a device, maybe set up your iPad and still give it to your kids or your family and not be worried about them adding new applications to it that you maybe don't approve of. In addition to that, iOS does give us some features to prevent or protect our privacy. So you'll notice here under the same feature, if you click on privacy, you can actually choose how apps how apps interact with each other. So if you install an app and you say, I don't want it to have access to post to Facebook, or I don't want it to have access to post to my Twitter account, I don't want it to be able to see the photos that are on my mobile device, the iOS browser and the iOS operating system allow you to put some limitations on this as well. So there are some features. It's a little bit more off and on than just complete app management, but it is something, and it helps keep our families safe if you're using an iOS device. So I just kind of wanted to give you a quick review of what's coming also for iOS. So in the very near future, in March, we are launching NetNanny for iOS as well. So right now we only have it available for Android, but it is coming out in the iTunes App Store in March. So please look for that. It's going to be a great feature-rich browser for protecting your internet, for you to set settings, make sure your kids don't go to inappropriate websites. And if you use this in conjunction with the features that I just showed you, you can really get a protected and safe internet experience on iOS devices. And we're really excited about this. So I just wanted to give you a quick summary of kind of what we've covered today, and then I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions. So first of all, when you go to install an app, take some time and look at the app. I know it's tempting to just browse through the store and say, wow, that looks interesting, I'll tap on it and install it. I'm guilty of it as well. But really take some time and look at the app. See if there are other people who've installed it. See how many other people have installed it. Google Play is a great place to see that. You can see how many people have installed it. You can read the reviews. You can look at how many stars they've given the app. Make sure you feel good about the app before you just try it out for someone. Next thing, make sure that you read the install screen on Google Play. When you go to install the app, it will always give you that list of what's going to be accessed on your mobile device. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to install an app that was supposed to tell me about the weather, and I see the list and it tells me this is going to have access to your instant messages and your contact list, and it's going to be able to make phone calls. And I think to myself, why in the world would this app need all these things? And it's probably because it's got some kind of embedded malware or some functions in there that I don't necessarily want it to execute on my phone. The second thing, limit where you get those apps. Don't just download them from random sources. Because of the open nature of Android, there are developers who can create an app, who can put it on their website, and they'll invite people to download it. Or they'll create their own app store and say, this is a great tool for getting apps outside of Google Play. Or they'll claim it's a great way to get a paid app for free. All of those options, they're typically a little risky as far as downloading those applications. And then the last way that we suggest, which is the safest way and the most managed, is to use an actual app manager like the one found in NetNanny. It will keep you safe. It will allow you to manage it. It will give you a good overview on what's going on your device, and you always have that peace of mind. So I wanted to thank everyone for coming. I know today's topic was relatively short, but we do feel it's important. We hope that it's been something that's beneficial to you. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions. We'll try to answer a few questions here in the next few minutes. If you can just give me a few seconds, we'll review some of these questions and get right back with you to try to answer them. One moment.